Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Zone Star State podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Ishmael Johnson. And Ish, today we are joined by Melissa Triebwasser, who covers TCU women's basketball and all things TCU, and was just at Dallas, the Wings practice and everything like that. So, Melissa, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be on. Thanks for having me, guys.
No problem. So, with this TCU program, I mean, heck, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we wouldn't even, just like how we're not talking about the men's on this podcast, we would not be talking about the TCU women's
True,
program
true,
on
fair.
this show, at least at this point in the year.
Yeah.
But obviously, Mark Campbell, who has come on our podcast now 3 times, friend of the show, he has got this thing completely turned around. Obviously, a tremendous year, 34-4, 16-2 in the Big 12, an Elite Eight appearance just in year two. What was last year like for you watching and just, getting to know the team and just as the year went on and then ultimately the run to the Elite Eight?
I mean, how long do you have for me to talk about this?
Long time.
It is, yeah. Like, I think the thing for me personally, like the selfish part of me is a sport that I've loved, that I've played since I was 4, that I've coached since I was 16, but I didn't have the passion for covering it for much of the last several years at TCU. Like it just because it was a struggle for a while. Like the 2020 team that was led by Lauren Hurd and Reagan Peebly was there, and they looked like they were going to potentially, I think they were finished second in the Big 12 before COVID hit. That was a team that had a chance to really make a run in the Big 12 tournament, but the wheels came off after, the way that season ended. And you just kind of thought, man, like, is TCU even going to be willing to invest in this program going forward with how much football is going to require? And they're going to make an investment in men's basketball and baseball. And to see Mark Campbell come in and just, immediately roll off a 14-0 start before the most ridiculous group of injuries, and to see the way that he handled, having to bring in 4 walk-ons and the grace that he handled with, and how like he kept such a positive, like the news, like people were texting me all the time, like, what's really going on? What's the real story here? This is weird. And to see him be the person that he is and lead the program through that kind of dark spell, and then to do what he did this past season, it's as much fun as I've had covering any TCU team, like on the level of kind of that 2022 football season and, some of the great baseball programs that have gone to the College World Series. It was just a blast. And you talk about the players, just an amazing group of women. Haley Van Lith immediately goes to my Mount Rushmore of favorite athletes to cover. I mean, it's, we were actually talking about that this morning, but, it's Haley, it's Max Duggan, and Desmond Bain, as far as like the people that you're going to get a great quote from, that love TCU, that give their all, and that are also super elite players. So the experience of covering her, especially leading into a summer where I'm covering Paige Beckers, it helped me be such a better journalist. So I feel like I owe that program. I owe Haley, I owe Mark so much for helping me rediscover a passion to see a team that I love, a school that I went to, be so successful in my favorite sport. It was a really, really special season, and just has me so excited for the future of this program.
Yeah, looking at a little bit of the environment that Mark Campbell walked into, you can probably say that you mentioned the 2020 year with Reagan Peebly, and had that team, I think mutually for TCU and for Reagan Peebly was kind of like I don't know if we could match what we were about to do there. Or like, to me, it felt like Peebly, you can kind of feel the air leave her, like her, I don't want to say her motivation, but let's just put it this way. She's not coaching anymore. She's in she's a GM now in the WNBA, which of course is a great gig, but she didn't go into coaching again right after she lost the TCU job.
And remember, during that season, she was also dealing with a brain tumor.
That's a good point. I forgot completely about that.
I mean, that, like, you talk about having the air taken out of you, dealing with major health issues, and fortunately full recovery, and then have COVID, like, my word, like, I'm not shocked. I stepped out of the classroom after COVID. She stepped out of the coach. I totally get it. Get it.
Right. And but it showed that there was something being built there. Obviously the next couple of years happen where she tries to patch something together, just doesn't quite work out. And so the divorce happens, mutually beneficial, I think, for everybody involved. And you see Campbell come in and instantly not only be able to bring in a roster, as we saw last year before the injuries, like you mentioned, that was going to compete to a certain extent. Might have fell short of the Big 12, but regardless was the top 3 team or 2 team maybe in the conference at that point. To this year, now be able to add on to that, and then heading into next year being like the support that has instantly been there obviously there's a lot of like not mystery, but like with any private school, you can't like look up how much money TCU's coaches are making and be like, oh, therefore they have this for NIL. Did you guys realize that this was kind of possible for women's basketball in particular at TCU? Because you lured Olivia Miles away from the WNBA. You lured Haley Van Lith to say, hey, why don't you come repair your WNBA stock here and be able to do that? At one point, you had one of the Cavender twins. Like, did you see that kind of support and like sustainability possible for this program this quickly?
Look, I'm going to whisper into the mic when I say this. No. Not at all. No, listen, Mark Campbell brought, and I feel like I have to caveat her name, but we know what we know. Sedona Prince and Madison Connor over with $0.
Right.
They had zero NIL budget that first season. They started 14-0, right? Before and Jada. I mean, they brought talented players.
Yes. Yeah.
To Fort Worth with $0 to spend. And then the thing about Mark Campbell, and it's funny because I was having this conversation with somebody at Wings practice earlier. When you cover, and you guys know this, you cover college sports, high school sports to a degree, you start to kind of see the veil peeled back and it becomes different. Your fandom takes, because you start to see how the sausage gets made, and a lot of times the behind the scenes stuff is icky and yucky, and not like, there are a lot of great human beings in coaching and there are a lot of not so great human beings in coaching, and I've seen plenty of both of those at TCU. But Mark Campbell is one of those people who is who he says he is consistently. If he is not the person that he has portrayed himself as, it would be among the most shocking things that I've ever heard in my life. And I've spent so much time around him and his family now that it's really easy for me to buy his authenticity. Like, I do think he is that person. And so the magnetism that he has, the draw, the environment that he creates, the true family gets thrown around all the time. But I mean, we all saw Haley Van Lith crying at the podium multiple times. We saw her talk about her mental health issues. And I got to talk to her in the locker room about that after the Louisville game. That was all very real. It was very real, very raw. And so you start to say this man is not only a heck of a basketball coach, but he's a supernova of a human being. And in this sport, I mean, we're watching it with Texas Tech right now. You don't have to invest a ton of money to get a massive return on investment in these lower revenue, non-football, non-men's basketball sports. And so I'll never forget where I was when I heard that Haley Van Lith was coming to TCU, because I was like replacing ceiling tiles at my dad's work. So it was just weird anyways. But that was kind of like when you heard the Cavender, that Haley Cavender was coming, you're like, oh, this is interesting. But she was sitting out a year, so never really felt real. But then when Haley Van Lith is like, I'm going to finish my career here, like, oh, this is an investment. And then I actually was talking to TCU's new AD, Mike Buddy, at the final spring football practice. And I just kind of was like, listen, like, as an alum of this school, as someone who loves women's basketball, who cares so much about women's sports, thank you for investing in TCU women's basketball, enabling this program to go from Haley Van Lith to Olivia Miles. And his answer was so simple, was, well, if we don't have Mark Campbell. And we want to keep Mark Campbell because we know what he can do. And this is a program that, like, you start to believe when you're in a non-SEC or Big Ten conference that winning a national championship in football feels pretty close to impossible. It's going to be really difficult for the non-SEC Big Ten schools of the world, even the ones that are throwing tons of money at programs like, Texas Tech football, but to win that many games with the depth, just the differences, right? Like, it's so hard. But you can put a low budget into softball, women's basketball, and you spend smartly in those sports that still matter and have giant followings, you can elevate from being an also-ran to a contender almost overnight. Now, getting over the top and beating a UConn, beating a blue blood, a national power, sure. We'll see. But getting to a Final Four, getting to an Elite Eight like TCU did this year, that seems like an attainable goal, and now is a proven thing for TCU. So now an Olivia Miles says, and I have no idea what the NIL numbers are, but I can guess what she's making at TCU in one season is more than her rookie contract would be in the WNBA. Yeah. So, why not take one more year, come play for a coach in a system that elevated Haley Van Lith from someone who many people didn't think had a professional future in America to a first-round draft pick, and someone who's getting minutes, and be a Clara Silva, who you saw how he developed Sedona Prince from somebody who thought she was going to have to medically retire to could have been a WNBA draft pick if not for some other things. Be a Marta Suarez.
Sure.
Like the top talent knows they can come to TCU and be successful. Hopefully get a nice little NIL package too, but they can win individually in how they are rated, but they can win as a team and elevate a program.
Yeah. Well, that's a good jumping off point for this upcoming year's team is Olivia Miles, and the way that he utilizes his guard. I mean, this past year it was just ball screens galore, 5 ball screens every time down the court. It felt like with Prince and Van Lith, and you were going to get a good shot eventually. Without, like you said, they replace Prince with a couple of 6'7" girls, which we'll get to later. But it does feel like Olivia Miles can play out of ball screens, but then also, just has the creative freedom that Haley is a little bit more mechanical at times. Olivia kind of just can go and just feel the game in a different way, I think. But I'm excited to see what he does with Olivia Miles. What are your thoughts on just how she fits?
Haley is going to make the right play 99% of the time, right? She's going to do it with the ball in her hands most of the time. We saw that a lot. Now, I think when Donovan Hunter went back in the starting lineup and Haley moved to the off ball, then she was a little bit less ball dominant. But she needed to have the ball in her hands for TCU to be at its best. Olivia Miles is going to make the right play 85% of the time. She's going to make the holy play 10% of the time. And then the other 5% of the time, you don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be entertaining. I mean, she had a pass when TCU played Notre Dame in the Sweet 16 that I almost fell off my photography chair. And then she ran into me and I saved her life. And so I like to take a little bit of credit for her coming to TCU. But it was just oh my God, she has that flash. She has that style. She has that special ability that elite playmakers have, that when you put her in a free-flowing system, you don't know what's going to happen, but it's probably going to be something pretty cool. And then you surround her with Donovan Hunter, who is as steady as they come, who is an elite defender, but also I think really, really improved up until I think the last week or so of the season she started to struggle, but really improved with her ability to run an offense. So now you're saying, okay, well, Olivia can play on the ball, she can play off the ball. Oh, and then we also have Maddie Shear, who is another person who has point guard experience, and so it really frees Olivia Miles up to be the best version of herself, and to play. Look, no shade to Hannah Hidalgo, because frankly I'm afraid she'll come for me, but that, you talk about ball dominant, right, in a chucker. There's a lot of I watch Enrique Ogunbowale now, with the Wings, and I'm Hannah Hidalgo starter pack, or Enrique is the Hannah Hidalgo starter pack, or opposite, vice versa, or whatever. She can just chuck it, and I think Olivia is going to be super efficient. Without having she's not going to have to carry the weight that Haley had to carry this past season. This is a much deeper team. It's a much more versatile team. Yeah. Now you lose Madison Connor, who, is the best shooter in college basketball, men's or women's, last year, in my opinion. Very, very purple tinted glasses opinion. But so that does change things a little bit. But I just think getting a player of that caliber in a system where she gets to feel in a place she gets to feel like she can be herself, and both on and off the court, I think is going to be really, really great for her, and unlock someone who was already considered to probably be the number 2 overall pick, and make her, she's going to have a pretty deep draft this year, but she's still going to be a top 3 pick, likely a top 5 at worst, and a player that's so much more fully developed than she would have been had she entered the WNBA or stayed at Notre Dame for one more season. There's just a lot she can do. And she's going to have really great pieces around her, I think, to fully realize herself as a point guard, but also as a player that can play off the ball. Yeah,
I was curious how you felt about, because I feel like this team's going to be probably not have the record of last year, but maybe be better as far in many other spots, because me and Bruni were kind of debating with this take last year, where it was we acknowledged that TCU was a top 10 to 5 team, somewhere in that range, for most of the year, but we also felt like that ceiling was pretty much top 5. There was a bubble that they couldn't crack, and granted, that was for probably the majority of a lot of the teams last year, outside of a handful that played in the Final Four. But I felt like a lot of the things, because I was at the South Carolina game, which of course is an outlier, but then you see the way that other teams who had similar benefits to South Carolina, Texas, who
Kansas State, Oklahoma State.
If they had a big who can kind of neutralize, the one post that they had, if they had somebody who can make Haley's life a little trouble, they struggled elsewhere. But this year, I look at the team, at least on paper right now, and I'm not seeing that, if they just shut this down, if they just do this, right? Because Olivia, obviously, the go-to is going to be, okay, game plan around her. okay, cool. But Maddie Shear's an all SEC point guard, right? Potentially. And you have, like you said, if they can figure something out with Marta Suarez and have her reach another level, like that's a potentially one of the best bigs in the conference. So like it feels like, again, I don't know if they go on the same run that they had last year where the record reads a certain way, but it feels like in those high caliber moments, high caliber games, that there's not a period where there's like, ooh, this
They're more
year
versatile. I think they're on paper, they're more versatile this year. Last year it was
100%.
very, you know what you're getting every time down, like I said, and to where South Carolina, Texas maybe could limit that. But I mean, this year I do see a lot more versatility. With Maddie Scher, I'm curious how much is on ball and how much is off ball for her. Go ahead, Melissa.
So, I mean, so a couple things. So, Ish, to kind of like address your point, this team doesn't have the high. Well, I mean, again, I guess it depends if you think who's the better player, Haley Van Lith, Olivia Miles. Like,
Right,
I mean,
sure, yeah.
now Haley got the better of Olivia twice, so maybe you got to give her the benefit of the doubt there, right? But Olivia's ceiling's probably higher. But man, like Haley is like the term like dog gets so overused in sports, but my God, she's a dog. Right, like
to the Desmond Bain thing. It's back to like Desmond Bain. We're watching Desmond Bain play, and you're like, is he the most talented player in the conference? Probably not. No. But like, I'm struggling to find people when he plays up against them. I'm struggling to find people more gifted than when you see them versus somebody else.
Wants it more. Like, look at both of their biceps. Like, tell me how much time they're putting in on the gym. Like, I hate to say the first one in, last one out, but like Haley was the first one in the gym every single day. She was the last one out. Well, like Madison Cotter would shoot at like 3 a.m. with her dog, but like theoretically, she was the last one out. Like I have never seen a player, and Desmond Bain's the exact perfect comp. Those are the two players that maximize their ability to the fullest.
Yeah.
I mean, did not waste an ounce of talent or ability, like reached their ceilings and beyond. And like Haley had that special ability to overcome everything. Like, watch that South Carolina game. It was obvious that the size, especially at the perimeter, really bothered TCU. Oklahoma State used the same game plan. They doubled Haley. They hadn't seen doubles the whole time. Mark Campbell didn't know how to adjust at that point.
Yeah.
So they fell in that game, and then Kansas State does this very similar thing, and so all of a sudden now they figured it out. And the Texas game, like there were times where it looked like TCU was going to find a way to beat Texas. And then there were times where Texas just overwhelmed them with size and athleticism, right? So Campbell went to the portal, and he found big guards. You go from a 5'7", 5'8", lead guard to, I mean, Olivia Miles is what, like 5'11", I think, 5'11", 6 foot.
6 feet,
Talia Parker's another one we haven't mentioned yet. So now all of a sudden you have size on the outside. Donovan Hunter is almost 6 foot. Maddie Shear is 5'11", I think. So you're going to be playing predominantly bigger guards. You have a lot more depth. Those 5 starters played 36 to 38 minutes a game. And in blowouts, they still played 30 plus because he did not take his starters out, and that's like my biggest complaint about him, but whatever. And not only did you go into the portal and get these super talented people, but you re-recruited 2 of your most important pieces, Taylor Bigby, who looked like she was going to have a breakout campaign and then kind of lost her confidence for a period of time and fell off. But you said, no, Taylor, we're going to make this work for you. We believe in you, and we are going to unlock you, and we are going to trust you to be a part of rotation. She could have gone. She had opportunities. And Aaliyah Roberson, another player who, again, this is a 6 foot. She's a stretch 4, but she's really more of a 3 with the style that she plays. You brought her back. So now you have this 8 or 9 person rotation theoretically. Plus, I mean, we haven't even talked about the incoming freshmen who are, mostly projects, but Clara Bleefield, I'm butchering that. She's got a lot of international experience. Like she can probably contribute in a small role this year. So you've addressed the biggest thing that hurt you, which was athleticism and size. You brought in depth, so your starters don't have to play 36, minutes a game. And Matthew, as you were saying with Maddie, like she could be your lead point guard. She was a all SEC type player before her injury, but she doesn't have to be. You have Donovan Hunter, who is more than capable of initiating the offense. She proved that this past season. You have Olivia Miles, who can play on ball. So if you can't double the ball at the entry point of the offense because there's too many other players that can handle it for you and that can initiate the offense for you too. So I think we're going to see Maddie more off the ball. Like in talking to Mark Campbell, I ran into him at an event and he sees Maddie being the 3-point gunner You know, she's not going to be Madison Connor. No,
Sure,
but
sure.
she is a very proven outside shooter, and with the attention that Olivia Miles is going to draw on the other pieces on the floor, I think she's going to get great looks. So I expect her to play more off the ball. I think Donovan and Taylor are going to handle, and Olivia are going to handle the vast majority of the ball, like the point guard duties and initiating the offense. Maddie plays more off ball, but you can also rest one of those, or if someone gets in foul trouble with Dono, sometimes can play very physical and pick up a couple early fouls. You don't have to wish and hope and leave them in with 4 fouls for 20 minutes, which we saw him have to do several times this year. So the ceiling might not be higher from a sheer force of will, but the depth and the overall talent is so much greater that this team, I don't think they need to reach an Elite Eight to be successful, but this is a team that probably they're less matchup dependent to reach a Final Four. That, like the versatility, Matthew, like you were saying.
You could look at either the box score of Haley Van Lith or Sedona Prince last year and figured out if they won or lost that game.
Yeah.
And this year it's going to be a lot more difficult to be like, ooh, Miles was off. Oh, they still won by 5. You know, like it has that makings of a better depth of a team.
For sure.
Yeah. Y'all mentioned Talia Parker. That's a good pickup of Veronica Sheffy. I saw in person over here for San Diego State against LSU. I don't think she had the best game there, but I in preparing for that game, I watched a lot of San Diego State stuff when Veronica Sheffy, as an off the bench piece, I like a lot for TCU this year. Again, going to the point of having multiple players that can put the ball in the hole, create for themselves a little bit more.
Yeah,
she's one that I think, like, if you look at Madison Connor's stats at Arizona, and she kind of came out of nowhere to be this like absolute lockdown 3-point shooter, Sheffy is the one that I'm like, and I kind of pointed Mark at this, and I'm like, Sheffy 3-point, and he was like, Maddie Shears are going to be our gunner. But to me, Sheffy is the one that I think has the chance to take the biggest leap in just her efficiency from behind the arc. She's got great fundamentals. I mean, she looks like she could be a great shooter, and if she's coming off the bench and you're saying get 4 or 5 threes up in your 20 minutes of play or 18 minutes of play, I think she can be really effective in that role.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I love how Mark Campbell, how open he is to just like talking about basketball, because when we first had him on 2 years ago, when he first took over, he was like, oh yeah, Jaden Owens is just going to lead the country in pick and rolls. Like we're just going to have her roll it. And sure enough, when I saw them twice in person. That's all they did. Like they just ran a ton of pick and rolls. And I'm like, you know what? He said this during like media day and then to us that he's just going to do that. And then last year, or then when the injuries happened later on that year, he, like, after when they won the UCF game, he was like, yeah, we're just running 5 out now. It's like, it's just like casual. And it's no mystery. Like they have the film. So like he has nothing to gain by withholding that from us. But like, it was just cool to hear him talk about, yeah, we never ran 5 out till this afternoon. And we had to figure out some units over there and figure out how to do this. And I'm just like, this is awesome. Like I wish more coaches would just talk about basketball.
I went to an FCA dinner and like I ran into him at this FCA dinner and I was just kind of like, Coach, like, you know, how's it going? Great job in the portal. And like he sat there for 10 minutes and just gave me a full scouting report of his entire roster. It's like, Coach, I was just saying hi, buddy. Yeah. Like I got to spend a day with them and go to practice and like sit with them and the coach. He was supposed to give me 20 minutes after just to kind of talk. We talked for over an hour and again, super transparent, like not all on the record, obviously, but he literally, like, he showed me his entire board. He showed me the process. He talked about all the players they had scouted, everyone they had signed. You know, they had signed, like, I think at that point, like 37 or 39 players in like basically 2 seasons of work. I mean, completely built this roster, but the dude is such a basketball junkie and such a nerd, like in the best possible way. He loves it. He eats it. He sleeps it. He breathes it. And he made, you know, him and his family they came to TCU sight unseen. He signed a contract before he showed up to campus for the first time. Their first visit to Fort Worth, he was already employed by the university. He tells this great story about him and his wife. I think they were in Maui when he made the decision or something. But he just kind of said like I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. And he had a great relationship with Jeremiah Donati, and Donati took a chance on this guy out of Sac State, you know, that was playing in the Big Sky Conference, but turned that program around. And basically just said, this is the right person to lead our program, and we trust that everything else is going to fall into place. And the Campbells, you know, they have 2 kids, a middle schooler and a high schooler, and they said, we're going to pick up and go to a place we've never been before. And thankfully, it's really worked out great for everybody, and it seems to be a really, really ideal fit. And he seems very, very happy and very committed to TCU, and in turn, TCU has given him the resources to continue to be successful.
My last question, we've talked a lot about the backcourt and the guards. This front court, when they picked up Clara Silva, was like, all right, they got 1-6-7 post. And then they went and got Kennedy Basham, and now they have 2. And so now I'm very curious as to how this all looks. Obviously, I don't think they play on the court together. Marta Suarez is also she's I believe 6'2" forward from Cal. Cal was very good this year. So those three, if we just start there between them, I know you mentioned like Aaliyah Roberson, kind of a tweener. That is a heck of a haul from the portal, and that immediately makes them, tall enough to compete with some of the other top teams in the country, to where, against Texas, who will always have like Vic Schaefer's 6'5", 6'6" girls and whatnot. Like, you at the very least have that height that can compete with them, and the interior defense seems to be shored up.
Well, don't forget too, 6'7" Emily Hunter, an early enrollee that showed up in January, started working out with the team. Okay, as a true freshman, she's a project. She's going to need probably another year. 6'8" Sarah Portlock out of Victoria, Australia. So more size. Again, a little bit of a player. And then their short player is a 6-foot guard out of Germany, Clara Bielefeld. So Bielefeld, whatever. So size is a priority for this program. Now, you can put all of those players together. They're probably not going to put up Sedona's stat line from last season, right? Like, but what you have, and they're young too. Silva is what? She's only going to be a sophomore, junior, I think, in the fall. So you've got some time to develop. You're going to need one of those players to be ready a little bit earlier than they should be ready if you want to make a Final Four run. Like, that's probably the difference between this being a Sweet 16 team, maybe an Elite 8 team, and a team that can actually get to that Final Four. But you have plenty of bodies to throw at people that all do things differently. Basham and Silva, they're a little bit thinner, a little bit more lithe. They'll look a little bit more like Sedona in that sense. But then the rest of those guys, and Marta included, those are some bangers, man. Like, they can get in there and they can play physical. And that was an area that Sedona Prince struggled with against Texas. They out-physicaled her in the post and completely took her out of the game. That doesn't have to happen this year. You might sacrifice a couple of inches in order to get, that physicality, but it's certainly there and available. So, again, I think the ceiling is lower for the interior players from an overall, for all of the other issues. Like, Sedona Prince was a hell of a college basketball player at 30 years old. But I think that, she did so much, both rebounding, blocking shots, and of course scoring. But what you have now is you have a more versatile, to use that word again, rotation down low. So, and you can see, I think you can go small. This team can go 4 out. Taylor Bigby is 6'1", 6'2". Roberson, like we mentioned, is 6'2". So if you want to go small and try to run teams off the court, you can do that. You can have Suarez play the center. If you want to go big, you've got 4, 6, 7 and above players that you can rotate through on, whatever minutes that you need to do so. I don't think you're super worried about trying to redshirt a whole lot of people, like, outside of injury. Like, in this era of the portal, why would you? Just play them. Like, who cares? Let it be somebody else's problem if they're not happy, right? Like, that's the way that it is. So, I think that there's obviously with the 2 incoming freshmen, like, maybe they aren't contributors in year one. Maybe Emily Hunter, to me, would be probably the most likely candidate to redshirt. But if she plays, like, she might be a 4 or 8 minute player a game right now, but she's big and she's been here for a semester. You don't see a lot of early enrollees in women's basketball.
That's crazy.
She showed up and put in the work because I think she wants to contribute, and I think they know that she knows that they need her. So, again, like, maybe ultimate ceiling individually a little bit lower, but team ceiling could certainly be higher just based on the depth, the versatility, and the strengths of this lineup that really counteract the perceived weaknesses. Now you're counting on Maddie Shear to be healthy. You can't lose. You can't lose like a Marta Suarez needs to be healthy. Like, there are a couple key pieces. Olivia Miles, like, you'd like her to be able to be on the floor for 30 minutes a game, but I think that there's not a whole lot catastrophic. Whereas, like, if Haley Van Lith, God bless it, had gotten hurt, like, that season it falls apart. Like nothing. And this year, I don't think you're in that position.
Yeah, and we're talking in terms of ceiling. We're talking like Final Four and Elite Eight, whatnot. But like in the Big 12, I haven't done a full deep dive on. I know like the surface level of the Big 12 right now, and I'm sure that I'm missing someone. But like, TCU is going to be the favorite by a significant margin. Like, I look at them compared to Baylor, and I think they are like still better than Baylor by a reasonable margin there. So I'd have to go through the rest of them.
Oklahoma State concerns me. That's a really, really good team, and they don't really lose anything. Iowa State is going to be better.
Yeah.
They did some nasty work in the portal and brought everybody meaningful back. Like, I think Iowa State, TCU probably 1-2. You'll get probably 50-50 votes because they're going to be
I'm sure
people that
Kansas
discount.
State will be decent again.
They lost a lot,
did.
but they still bring back quite a bit of talent. But yeah, I mean, I figure your top 5 are probably the TCU, Iowa State, Baylor, Oklahoma State, and Kansas State. That's probably the top of that. I mean, those are the teams that seem like they're really committed to trying to be really, really good women's basketball programs. Both the Arizona schools are going through a lot of transition. They lost a lot. Both of them lost in the portal. You have a new coach out there at Arizona. So Houston has a ways to go. They're trying to rebuild that thing. Texas Tech, I have no idea what their grand plan is.
Neither do we.
Yeah, right.
We had a running joke that Krista Gerlich's contract was about to be signed. Extension relied on Aaliyah Chavez, and it was just like, it just resulted in Kirby Hoka waking up. Is like, is Chavez signed yet? No. All right, go back.
Bye. You're out.
Go do your thing until she's signed.
Until she's
so I don't know what's going on now.
Yeah, Colorado, I mean, they had some really nice pieces. I think they bring a lot back. But yeah, I mean, TCU is, I still think nationally, they're still let's see if you can do it without Haley Van Lith, right? Like, there's still certainly that. But I think when you look across the conference, West Virginia too, I don't want to discount West Virginia. That's a great program. Yeah.
That's right.
It's going to be harder to, I mean, the last 2 weeks of the season were so much fun. Because you needed a little bit of help, but you also controlled a lot of your own destiny, and getting to beat Baylor on their home floor for the second consecutive time when you hadn't beaten them in 30-something years, to win a outright Big 12 championship was among my greatest moments of my, like TCU affiliated career. But like, that rivalry is only going to get crazier now that it's actually a rivalry, right? Iowa State, like, they aren't going to forget that TCU went up into Ames and beat them. And Iowa State was not going to start how they started a season ago. Like, I think Iowa State could easily be a Final Four team as well.
Same.
They're very,
they
very
should get
good.
Back on track.
Yeah, I fully believe that program they are going to be one of the elite programs in college basketball. So yeah, you may finish, I think, Ish, like you said at the beginning, like with the worst record in conference. You may not win the Big 12 regular season title, but this is a team that's built to play deep into March, and they want to win titles along the way. We saw it last year. Like, I would have mailed it in after beating Baylor and Waco probably, and not cared about the Big 12 tournament. But this team knew they needed to make history, and they needed to do right by that program as a whole. And it was important to them to pull the sweep. Like, it really mattered to that team. Will it matter to this team? I don't know. Well, it remains to be seen. But I do think that they are better positioned to make a as deep or deeper run without needing a lot of magic along the way. And this last team last year got a ton of magic, and that made it even more special and fun. But everything was underdogs and overcoming. This team's going to have expectations, and that is a very different way to play basketball.
For sure. All right, Ish, you got anything else?
No, that was it. That was good.
Good. Yes. Thank you, Melissa, for your time, and we'll definitely try to have you on again, either before the season or early in the season at some point, to talk to TCU women's basketball. We'll have Mark Campbell on too. We'll have like all 4 of us on.
Yeah, that's what we need. Mark would die if he was on a podcast with me. He would just be like side-eyeing me the entire. I love that dude. Like, seriously, just the best human being on the entire planet. But between the two of us, this would be a 4-hour show because neither of us knows how to stop talking. So, and I say that being fully aware of who I am.
Mark can go. Mark can go. Pretty good.
You want to have a 24-hour, like, if you ever need to do like a fundraiser, get Mark Campbell and Jamie Dixon. Ask them each one question, and then just sit back. Like, Jamie Dixon has mastered the art of, I don't want to talk to you guys, so I'm going to talk for 10 minutes about one question and not answer it, and then you're going to be tired, and you're going to just leave me alone. He's awesome. I love that guy so much. He's the best. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. Would love to come on anytime. Talking TCU women's basketball has certainly become one of my absolute favorite things, so I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yes, y'all can follow her at the Coach Melissa on X. Leave us a like, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you all for joining us. We will talk to y'all later.